Today's episode, we're just going to dive into a topic that literally could change the way you approach your health and your wellness journey, especially in the new year as we approach 2025. If you're just tired of setting up your January, starting with lots of motivation and excitement, but then you find yourself really quickly falling off the wagon just a couple of weeks later, this episode's for you. So here's the thing, your kitchen might be your biggest health saboteur without you even realizing it. And, I'm not talking about cleaning up the crumbs and the dirt. We're talking about reorganizing your space and just making sure that your kitchen, the food and the supplies are there to support your goals, to help you be nourished, to fuel you, to be literally fuel for your bodies and your systems. So I want to make it as effortless and as fun as possible for you guys. And so today I'm going to be sharing with you 3 really easy, simple strategies for decluttering your kitchen and putting in the good things. And hopefully we can help you set up better habits that will shape up and set you up for success moving into that new year, new you, healthier version that we always strive for when we cross over to January 1st. Plus, we're going to talk about how to set some realistic, fun, sustainable goals. Because let's face it, forever starts today, and your future self is going to love you as you make these transitions and moves. We're not setting off to wait till January 1st or some other arbitrary date. We're going to go ahead and start now because forever starts now. So let's go ahead and dive into that first strategy for setting up your kitchen for success. And this really, this isn't the funnest part. Although if you get a good wind in your sails, it can be quite satisfying. And that is clearing out those health saboteurs. And, this one, it's a simple step. It doesn't take very long, but it's very incredibly helpful and powerful. And it's the perfect way to kick off that kitchen declutter. So let's go ahead and think about this. You've probably had moments where you wanted to make a healthy choice, but then that sugary snack or that soda or those crackers and processed foods are just sitting there waiting for you. And it's almost like they're calling out your name. And it's like having the temptation minefield right in your own home. I'm sure that sounds familiar. I know exactly what my weaknesses are, and I'm sure you do too. So here's the truth. We've all been there. There's no shame in this chat that we're having today. But the secret is that self-talk. It will come in, and it often sounds something like, I want to eat healthier, but those snacks, boy, they're so convenient, or I'm starving, or I just didn't plan and prepare. They're so delicious, and everything healthy tastes nasty, right? Like we have these beliefs that we think. And of course, those beliefs, they lead us into how we feel and how we act. And so today I want to just go ahead and help set a new belief system that helps you really kind of realize that you're making easy swaps here. Because I know a lot of people, another kind of thought that we have is, I don't want to waste this food. So I'm going to go ahead and eat this food. And then when I get through this bag of cookies or bag of chips, then I'll go ahead and start this. And I just want to remind you that even though you've already spent that $3 to $5 on those things, it costs you more than that in health bills later. So let's just go ahead and be kind to ourselves and give us the gift of just letting them go. Okay. So, the mindset and the environment here is really what's going to set you up for success or for failure. And I want you to be able to feel in control and go ahead and take that control back. So my first tip, all right, here you go. Start by tackling those obvious culprits, the things that we know are our weaknesses. Remove and significantly reduce those foods loaded with sugars, things like sodas, processed snacks. If it does not come in a glass jar or fresh in the produce section or in the dairy and meat section, right? Go ahead and start reading those labels. I don't want you to hide behind that kind of where they'll continue to whisper at you every time you're looking for something to eat and you're hungry and you haven't prepared and gotten ahead of yourself. So physically remove those from your space. You're going to thank me. You're going to thank yourself. Feel free to donate them if you're concerned about having already spent the money towards that, but or give them to a friend, but let them go. It's important to just gift yourself and love yourself enough to do that. Let's talk about reading those labels. Okay. So you'd be surprised at how many everyday products sneak in things like artificial colors or dyes or flavorings. I'm sure many of you, even earlier this week, there was a headline about Fruit Loops and the Canadian version versus the United States version. The Canadian version, their colorings come from beets and carrots and natural foods. And then ours come from red 40, yellow 5, or whatever, it is. And so I just want you to read those labels. Does it have those artificial colors and dyes? Does it have artificial flavorings? It's crazy how many chemicals the FDA allows you to put into that one word, flavor. And they don't even have to disclose that on their labels. So flip it over, read the ingredients. If you can't pronounce half the words, it's probably time to go ahead and let it go and ditch it. Okay. And here's a quick story. I had a client once who had a problem with resisting those sugary snacks. And I mean, truly, I had those days too at one point. And the funny thing is when she made that one simple change and got rid of them completely, that's when she started to she also started to infuse her water because she didn't like the taste of water, and that's why she kept running to her sodas. But when she was able to infuse the water, it was like within 2 weeks she had more energy, she was losing weight, the sugar cravings dropped dramatically, and all it took was clearing out those saboteurs. So that's what I want for you to build momentum. Okay, so what can you do today? You can go ahead and pick 1 or 2 items of categories of unhealthy items, clear them out. Just go ahead and do it. Start with the obvious ones like the sodas. Even juices can be complicated because the glucose spike that they give you. So you may want to do a swap for just eating the fruit itself. So if you're feeling brave, share in the comments. I want to hear, what do you plan on getting rid of today? All right, let's go ahead and move into strategy number 2. This is where you set up your kitchen for success. And it's also part of the decluttering process. And what you're going to do is you're going to swap out canned foods for their fresh or frozen alternative. So I know what you might be thinking, but like canned foods are so convenient. And you know what? In this case, you may not want to donate them. You may want to put them in your survival stash for like if there's a storm or something. I can totally see the benefit in that regard. But what happens with cans is they often come with some hidden risks that they're really not doing your health any favors. And so we're going to get into that because the main culprit here is going to be your BPA. That's a chemical lining that they put into your cans. And it's just crazy how that one ingredient can compromise your wellness journey. And I know that a lot of cans now say BPA-free. And let me be very clear, the chemicals that they're using in place of it can be just as damaging and cause just as serious of health risks as the BPA version did. Things like diabetes, cardiovascular disease, endocrine disruptors, it's just not something you want to mess with. You don't want your hormones to be affected because your hormones really are the life force of your body. They're going to, you adjust that and you find all kinds of things out of whack. Your sleep gets out of whack. Your all kinds of stuff. So don't mess with this. So here's my solution. It's really simple. If you're looking at like canned peaches, look for the jar version that's not put in syrup, but in juice or fresh peaches in and of itself or frozen peaches. They're so tasty. And you can always, if you feel like they need sweetened, put some honey or something, but trade out that can for the better version of itself. And the other thing is too, when they cook down your vegetables to put into a can, you're losing so many of the health benefits because it got cooked out or strained out in the water. Okay, so when you're getting that fresh version or the frozen version, they're able to keep the active enzymes and a lot more of the nutrients in the food in that regard. So you're keeping those vitamins and those minerals, those things that really do nourish and fuel your body and your energy. Okay. So like if you're looking at canned green beans, get the frozen version, get the fresh version. Even the fresh version doesn't take that long. You're just chopping off the ends and throwing it in, right? So that's what I want you to look for. There's endless options here. And if you have questions about swaps that you want to make, because it seems difficult, reach out to me. That's one of my most favorite things to do is just find the healthier version of what people are, enjoying. Small changes, they make a big impact over time. It didn't happen overnight, the health issues or the things that you were experiencing. And so it's not going to happen overnight in the switch, but it's kind of like that compound effect. And this is really, I'm a science geek. I love talking about these things. I love numbers, but the compound effect is just really simple. On the graph, you'll see a flat line, and then it almost starts multiplying and skyrocketing straight up from there. And so it really can feel grueling. And that's why we always quit that healthier version of ourselves in the first 2 weeks, because we're still in that flat line. We're not seeing any changes. We're not feeling any better. It's not exciting. And then if we were to hang in there 2 more weeks or 3 more weeks, all of a sudden you start seeing the slow rise. And if we were to hang in another month, that's when you start seeing the catapult effect. Often you need about 90 days to 120 days to start seeing those drastic compounding effects. Okay. It's really funny because I have this friend and they had eaten canned veggies their whole lives and they just didn't even know how much more flavorful fresh or frozen was. And then once they started doing this, all of a sudden they were like, wow, there's like a party in my mouth. Like I had no idea how much my taste buds would love this, right? And so it's really fun. But and that's an added benefit. We're just trying to remove that BPA lining and give you more nutrients, but then you get the benefit of your flavor of your food being so much more rich. And so go ahead and take a moment and look in your pantry. I want you to see like what canned items can you replace? It's just a simple swap and so many benefits that come with this for your health. And then now let's go into our third, and this is the most exciting strategy of them all. And that's filling your kitchen with just tasty, nourishing, healthy foods. And I want you to find ones that are irresistible to the point that when you make the swaps, you're not feeling like you have let yourself down. So, but this is really what we just talked about is really half the battle, letting all the other stuff go. So now we're talking about the other half and the alternatives that we have to seek out and find. There are bags of potato chips like the Siete brand where they're putting not seed oils, but they're putting regular oils and fresh chips, and they don't have all those chemicals and random preservatives added. And so if you can find a good swap, it's really enjoyable. And I often like the taste of those way better. And so, I don't want you to get to a point where you've gotten rid of everything and then you open up your closet, your pantry, and there's nothing there. Because what do we do when that happens? We run to the store and we fill it with all the stuff that we just got rid of, right? And so let's go ahead and make sure that we fill our kitchen to support us and our goals and our visions. So, and then of course, you guys know, you've been with me enough to know that hydration is going to be my number one thing that we're going to talk about, especially if I am one-on-one with you. When we have a coaching session, I'm always checking in. Are you drinking your water? Because this is the overlooked habit that has such a massive impact on your health. And when we're moving into that 2025 and we're looking for a healthier version of ourselves, water, it detoxifies us. It lets our organs have the fuel and energy it needs to just keep going. And so I don't want you to be fooled, though. You can't count your coffee, your tea, your juices. You can't count those towards your hydration. And the reason for it is often those are dehydrating. So if you're having a hard time drinking water because you just don't like it, try distilled. A lot of people like the flavor of distilled or reverse osmosis. Or if you have to do something more than that, try adding ice or lemon or mint to your water. Even cucumber. Cucumber doesn't change the flavor a ton, but it just gives that an extra boost of hydration. So those herbs and everything, like check into it. You're just adding more really good things into your water. And then let's go ahead and talk about sugar. So if we're getting rid of sugar, what what are we going to replace it with, right? And this is a tough subject because every single person's body is completely different. We're chemically built in a different way. So somebody can have honey and it doesn't cause as much of a spike as a glucose spike as it will for someone else. So this is one of those things where you might need to try trial and error. It also involves taste buds. A lot of people don't like certain flavors of things. I know personally, I love maple syrup to be in my baked goods if I'm going to be baking to replace like the brown sugar parts of the recipe. But I don't like it in my teas. I don't like it, in other things. So this is where you're going to have to experiment and play. But I will say this, check in with your health provider to see what you can do, but you definitely want to stay away from those OSEs. Those are chemical versions of sugar or extractions from things. And so because of the processes they've gone through, your body doesn't recognize them as a natural substance. So it's a foreign substance. It often has to work really hard to process it. So also avoid aspartame and things like that. So what can you test and try? You can try honey, you can try monk fruit, you can try stevia. I know stevia is a tricky one because the powder versions also often taste pretty bitter. And then some of the liquid versions, they actually add sugar to them. So you have to be very careful to make sure you're still reading those labels. But if you want some good suggestions, check in with me and I will pass on a link to you. And I know the sad part is when we do sugar, we often feel satisfied initially. It sends those dopamine and everything to our brain. We're happy, we're satisfied. But what that does is it throws a spike and then we go for a crash, which makes us hungry faster. And we find ourselves eating more calories and more food than we actually would have if we had just fed our body real nutrients. And so when you're swapping out, say, the juice for the orange itself, that orange, because of the fiber and things like that, is also going to help that glucose take a slower rise instead of a spike. So fiber is always a good thing to throw in if you know that you're going to have sugar and you're not going to be able to avoid it. I do keep a product. It's not a psyllium husk, but it is a fiber product that I keep around when I absolutely feel like I have to. And I always take it right before my smoothie. I do all berries and I don't even add sweetener to my smoothies, but I do feel jittery. I know that my body, it gives it a spike. So I take the fiber beforehand and that always helps sustain me so that I can get those berries in. Those suckers are so full of antioxidants. I want to make sure I don't miss them, but I can't handle the sweetness. So, all right. And here's another one. This one is just fun because especially if you grew up in a household where carrots was the only vegetable you ate or something of that nature, try eating the rainbow. I know that this was a catchy little phrase a couple years ago, and but each color provides something different for our bodies. And so when you just go out and experiment, if you're worried about the flavor or how your body responds, just go to the store, buy one of those items, and then try it in one of your meals throughout the week and just see how you respond. It's funny because I didn't even know that I liked Brussels sprouts until I did this. And I don't mind greens. So I don't know why I never tried it. But once I tried Brussels sprouts and did it a couple of different ways, there's so many different ways to do it. It was like, oh my gosh, I love Brussels sprouts. And same thing with like kiwi or something tropical or different that you just don't keep around very much. Have fun with it, experiment. Who knows? You might actually discover something you really love that you didn't even know existed, And so here's some other things to consider too. And I'm just throwing out lots of options. I really only want you to take hold of one or two this week so that you just don't overwhelm yourself. But like if you love crunchy things like potato chips, try a crunchy vegetables. See if it really truly is the texture that you're in love with. Because some people, they can swap like roasted chickpeas or nuts and find that that totally satisfies that craving that they need. So if you love creamy based sauces, try things like avocado and stuff like that. When it comes to snacks, there's so many options out there. And so just experiment, figure out what it is that you loved about that one item and give similar items a try. And like I said, if you have questions, feel free to reach out. I love helping people find healthy solutions because I want you to live your longest and fullest and best life. Because the goal here is to make your kitchen a place that supports you, nourishes you, and fuels you. You have so many dreams and goals to go after in this lifetime, and your health could be the very thing that keeps you from it or sends you out in a way that you're totally prepared to achieve all of them. So those healthy choices, make them easy to obtain, make them front and center. You're more likely to stick with them when you have plenty around, especially on those busiest of days. Our culture is so go, go, go that we have to make sure we have easy grab options. So here is an action step you can take. I want you to take inventory of your fridge, your pantry, even your go bag. If you have a bag full of snacks, like what nourishing foods can you add in there that are healthy, that are going to be tasty, that are going to be enjoyable, that are going to be nourishing? What fuel does your body need? Okay. And it needs to be not a foreign substance to your body, but one that your body recognizes. So feel free to be creative. Even share in the comments or in the Facebook group. Like these are things that the whole world needs to know. So if you find something, women, we're so good at sharing these amazing things that we discover. Get in there, share them. Okay. Often these things are what becomes our kitchen staples. But since we've talked about decluttering and restocking and making swaps, let's go ahead and talk about setting those realistic goals for that new year, because the new year is going to come upon us very fast. This month between Thanksgiving and Christmas, it goes by in such a blur. And so that's why I wanted to talk about this now, so that you're prepared. You've already had time to think about, even on the back burner, think about all these things that you want to do so that you've set yourself up for success. Because January 1, it can lead us into burnout, or it could lead us into like the dreamy year that we have planned for ourselves. And so we're aiming for this different approach where we can set ourselves up for success ahead of January 1st. But just remember, your health journey is called journey for a reason. This is not something that we're trying to happen overnight. We didn't get where we are overnight. We're not going to get there transformed overnight either. But we are starting now. And before that new year pressure hits, because once we cross over to January 1st, there's so many things like getting your kids back to school, getting back into the work rhythm, and so that's not the time to experiment. Okay. Because we don't have the creativity or the brain space and the energy and capacity to do so. So now is the time to create those small, manageable habits that build upon each other and cause that compounding effect. So for instance, if your goal is to drink more water this year, don't overwhelm yourself by like going from 8 ounces a day to a gallon a day, right? Like I want you to just add in 1 extra 8-ounce glass a day until that no longer feels like pressure or a problem. And then you add in another. And so you're compounding by just letting this teeniest small habit come into a place where it becomes a habit, and then you add to that. So it needs to feel easy before you add another. And same thing if exercise is your goal. Like instead of going from 0 workouts a week to now I'm working out an hour and a half or 45 minutes a couple times a week, that literally can be like a grueling thing on your body. It can make your body sore and achy, tired. So start with 5 minutes. Can you do squats? Can you go walk, a short distance for 10 minutes? Progress is progress, and I want you to celebrate it no matter how small it is. And here's a fun idea. I recently heard a friend share, get your family on board. Like when you are in this with a group of people, you have someone who's accountable to you. It makes it more exciting. You're not doing it by yourself, so you don't feel like you're missing out. The FOMO's not there, right? And make it into a challenge. This is the story my friend shared with me. So, like her family, they all wanted to lose weight this year, and so they put $20 into a pot, and then the person who loses the most weight wins. So whatever your goal is, whether it's to drink more water or, exercise daily, like start tracking those with other people, friends, family, and make it a fun, engaging, and supportive situation. You don't have to do $20, but just, maybe you promise yourself a fun thing that you've always wanted to do, but you have never done before. And that's what it should look like. And it should be fun. The attainable goal should be easy enough, but the reward should be also rewarding enough. So let's go ahead and paint a picture of what success can look like for different scenarios. Okay. So you've kicked off the new year, already hydrated, your energy levels are through the roof, so you don't have a crash throughout the day. Isn't that what you want? Because then from there, you can take the next step when January 1st comes along. Or think about like if you've been doing simple exercises where you're putting in 5 to 10 minutes a day, that enjoyable habit then actually makes you look forward to the exercise. And so that is your launching pad for January 1st. And you can be implementing more. Or if you've wanted to lose weight and you're envisioning dropping several pounds, but you do it slowly and steadily. So you feel confident, you feel strong, as the weeks go by. You don't feel shame by the time you've made it through the holidays, and then you dread because, instead of a lot of people, what we do is we go, we'll do this all after the holidays. And then we end up putting on 5 pounds. Well, that's an additional 5 pounds that you've created a higher mountain for yourself to climb, but what if you just decide throughout the holidays, I'll let myself have one bite of that dessert instead of 2 or 3 slices of it, right? And then that way you move into the new year and you haven't sabotaged yourself. So the key here is to set yourself up for small wins and celebrate them. You've already got the habits in place and you've not beat yourself up. You don't have shame. You haven't missed your goal because you've made it something totally accessible to yourself. So let's go ahead and talk about that. Like progress is important. We're not going after perfection. We're going after progress. And so look at what the end game and goal is for yourself. What does healthier you in the new year mean? And then go backwards and pick one small, manageable goal that you can commit to today. So if you want to share that in the comments, whether you're trying to add water, swap a sugary snack, quit sodas, eat one vegetable or fruit from the rainbow, everything counts. And I would love to hear what you hope to implement between now and the end of the year. I hope that I left you fully inspired by these last couple of episodes of decluttering and discovering yourself, feeling confident about fashion choices. But this is unto the person that you're trying to become for 2025. I want you to feel vibrant, healthier, more confident, more you. And so as we wrap up, I just wanted to take a moment to just express my gratitude to all of you guys for joining me this year in 2024. It has been a pleasure and an honor, and I have enjoyed every moment of connecting with you guys. But I hope your days are filled with just laughter, healthy food, as we've talked about today, but that you would walk into 2025 with hope, that there would be just a sense of abundance coming your way, that your perspective shifts or moving towards that abundance.